auto sales were a mixed bag in August, where M&M's SUVs clocked 16% growth, while Bajaj Auto sales rose by 16%. Meanwhile, tractor sales remained muted. We are going to be joined by Dorabjee, the editor of Autocar India. But before that, let's go across. Thank you, Mr. Dorabjee, for joining in. We're just going to come to you very quickly. But just a quick report from Tushar, who breaks down these numbers from us.
So the August auto sales can actually be described as a dichotomy, at least in the four-wheeler space. If you look at the table, Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, as well as Tata Motors, the top three car makers, have reported declines in the month of August. That's mostly due to the fact that they are realigning their production or sales or dispatches, that's from the showroom, from the factory floor, the showroom floor, to align it with the inventory buildup that has been building since actually May this year. Remember, the inventory is at about 67 to 70 days. About 70,000 crore rupees of unsold stock is with dealerships. But in comparison, Mahindra and Toyota have seen stellar growth. That's on the back of actually a low base, and the fact that Mahindra is working on full capacity, and both the companies, Mahindra as well as Toyota, have huge order books, which also had to be addressed. Essentially, they are working at full capacity. Coming to the two-wheeler space, the dichotomy spells over into two-wheeler space as well. A Hero or a TVS growing at more than 5% indicates that the rural demand is finally coming back to the two-wheeler space. Bajaj Auto's growth indicates that the premiumization or the demand for premium motorcycles is still intact in the Indian two-wheeler market, but that cannot be said for Royal Enfield because of the product fatigue that the company is seeing in its 350cc segment. Remember, the Classic is its breadwinner. It's everywhere. Everybody wants it. But now, eventually, the competition has caught up, and people have more options apart from the 350cc Royal Enfields to get into the two-wheeler space.
All right, Tushar, thank you for that. Now, Mr. Dorabjee, what are your key takeaways from the data that's come? It seems like quite a bit of a mixed bag, really. But overall, the sector has been grappling with a downward sales trend in the recent month, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I think, one has to put it in the right perspective and remember that, we've had multiple years since COVID of stellar growth. Sales have literally gone through the roof, setting records every year. Clearly, we have a very, very high base, and we are seeing a base effect right now. And, in a way, the party is over. It's back to business for dealers and OEMs. There are no more supply constraints. The long tail demand of COVID is now finally mopped up, and it's just back to how it was before, which is, I think just finding buyers in a market that's getting more and more saturated. So I think it's nothing unusual. Still think overall, if you look at it in absolute terms, the volumes are still high. But clearly, manufacturers now have built capacity, they're building capacity, and that's not enough. And they want to push more and more volume.
Any word on the inventory levels? Because at this point also we seem to be seeing very, very high inventory levels coming in for various sectors.
I think inventory levels is an issue. Clearly it is. I think, OEMs have also, I think, to certain investors made commitments on volumes that they have to achieve. So clearly they are, pushing inventory, and that is causing a bit of a pileup because there are not enough customers for those cars. So yes, inventory buildup is an issue. I think dealer body has also publicly got into a spat on this with SAM, FAD, that. So I think it's, it is again not an situation we've not seen before. But I think, for OEMs, they need to be careful as to how much capacity they're building up, what sort of volume projections they're looking at going forward. I think it would be wise to be more prudent and more realistic in what the demand is going to be, in the next year to 18 months.
Now, traditionally, of course, the Indian markets, have been a bit slow at the beginning of the year, but it does tend to pick up later on in the year, around the festival season, which we should now be walking into that. But do you think that with this latest data that's come in, that could be more of a challenge now?
Well, I think festival season, definitely the sales will pick up. Don't forget we had a bit of a blip with a very hot summer. People didn't go out. Elections were on, so purchasing decisions were deferred. Consumers love a sweet deal, and the more discounts they are, they will continue to get cars. So it all depends on what sort of let's say deals consumers are getting, and the discounts that will be a big driver for overall volumes. And clearly, getting into the festive period, that's really what we will see. So I think we will see definitely an uptick in sales for sure. We've also got some, more big models coming out, which will overall drive, let's say sales higher. So I think it's not going to be all doom and gloom in the festive season, but clearly, I think, there's no longer that pull in the market that there used to be. There's a big push needed by the both the dealers and the manufacturers.
Right, you did mention the discounts. Everybody who's watching is going to be largely interested in that, and people who are looking to buy a car. But given the cost pressures that are involved, do you think that automobile companies are going to come up with big discounts in the festival season? Because anybody who was looking to buy a car in the past 3 months would be waiting now in the hope that they'd get better deals.
Well, yeah, I think one again has to look at it in the right perspective, that if you see the overall price base of cars has shot up dramatically again since COVID. Cars are much more expensive than what they were. I think even the core of the demand is moving into more profitable segments. Earlier, it used to be sub 10 lakhs. Now it's 10 to 20 lakhs, where there's more margin over there. So I think in terms of margin and profitability, actually the OEMs are pretty well placed, because what's changed is the Indian consumers kind of propensity to buy expensive. They've gone from being cost conscious to value conscious. We've seen that especially in the luxury segment, where cars of over 1 crore are probably the fastest growing. Very, very tiny segment, of course, a minuscule segment, but it just shows the mindset of consumers who are willing to pay if they get the right set of features and what the content in the car and what it offers. So I think margins is, yes, there is pressure on that when discounts happen. But I think OEMs and a lot of them have enough of that buffer.
What's your outlook on two-wheelers now? Those sales seem to have picked up, and perhaps it's also indicative of rural demand.
Yes, I think I would, absolutely. I think we are seeing a certain pickup in rural demand, which has a direct correlation with two-wheeler sales. So I think, after many years of really floundering, I think we are seeing a kind of revival at the lower end of the pyramid and the spectrum. And again, that's, I think a good sign for the two-wheeler segment as well. So, it's a little bit of an up and down. You've got the cars flattening out, and now you've seen the lower end of the mobility chain picking up.
Any last word on EVs? We've, of course, FAME 3 is what we are hearing is going to roll out by the middle of this month.
I think it's going to be a challenging time for EVs, but eventually they will pick up. That definitely is the future, and OEMs will have to push that if they are to meet future CAFE 3 norms, which kick in 27, 28. But I think for now, there's a bit of flux in the market. The early adopters who have to buy an EV, who were the evangelists, who were convinced, they've done that. Right now, people are weighing up between EV and ICE. They're a little bit more skeptical on EVs. There's little concerns about resale value. That's really the big bomb waiting to drop, because clearly anecdotal data tells us resale values are really, really poor on EVs. So I think, all these factors are going to be an issue. And I think also for me, I think the fundamental issue is that home charging is not as rapid as the adoption of it, or the availability of it is not happening as fast as it should. And that to me is also a huge hurdle for EV adoption.
All right. Hormzad, Dorabjee, appreciate your joining in on the big story this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. And on that note, it is a wrap on the big story. Thank you for joining us.